Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Heavy Hands Podcast, a solo edition. It is Friday, January 8th, 2021. Thank God we are bringing in a new year. I am Noah Hellhake. I am one-third of the normal Heavy Hands Podcast hosting duo. We are missing out today on Hunter the Shark Vaughn as well as Eric Williams. They are out doing better things with their life. This podcast today will be brought to you by DPC Painting. That's Diaz Painting Company. If you are located within the Kansas City Metro and you don't use DPC Painting, then you are a donk. A little housekeeping here. If you could please go to youtube.com/heavyhandspodcast. Give us a like, share, subscribe. That would mean a lot. As well as Facebook, Heavy Hands Podcast, Instagram, Heavy Hands Podcast, and Twitter, I believe we are HH Podcast on there. So any like, shares, follows on those platforms would be amazing. Additionally, I believe after today we will be on Spotify. Sorry if I'm wrong on that, but within the next couple days, we should be able to get on Spotify as well. I wanted to put out a solo podcast today just because we've been lacking a lot on content. We've had a lot of IT issues, but I think we've worked most out. We have some guests lined up for the weeks to come. So hopefully we can get those guests in here now that we got some stuff sorted out. A lot of new video stuff coming in. So we got some stuff that we kind of overcommitted to the video initially. But now we're balls deep. So we might as well go ahead and finish strong. I wanted to talk to you guys about quite a few things today. Primarily, we're going to be breaking down UFC on ABC 1, which will be a card that's going to happen Saturday, January 16th. It is going to be the first UFC card that is on ABC, and I believe the prelims start at noon Eastern, so that's going to be 11 a.m. Central Time. Those will be on ESPN+, followed by the main card will be on ABC. That's going to be going up NFL, other primetime sports on that Saturday. The main card's going to start, I believe, around 3 p.m. Eastern, so that'll be 2 p.m. Central Time for us. The card is headlined by Max Holloway versus Keator, so we will break down that fight. We'll break down another fight pretty in-depth. Santiago Ponzinibio versus Liang is a very exciting fight. I believe it should be the co-main event. I'm not sure why it's not, but they're throwing two big names in the co-main. Older names, Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown, which should be a fun fight. I don't think it deserves to be the co-main event. But we'll talk about that a little bit. And then there are two other fights I want to go over that are pretty exciting that I think might have flown under the radar just a smidgen. So I'll point those out in case you're not too excited for this card. Maybe this will change your opinion and you'll tune in for those as well. A little bit of news that I wanted to get to today prior to getting into UFC on ABC 1. This story breaks my heart, but I think we should talk about it. Erwin Rivera, 31-year-old UFC fighter, comes off the Contender Series, I believe, ex-Titan FC champion. He was arrested in Florida, I believe, yesterday. He was letting his two sisters stay at his house in Florida when he awoke them from their sleep with a knife and stabbed both his sisters several times. I believe both of their injuries were very critical. I don't believe either are in a situation where they're fighting for their life per se, but I believe their injuries are serious and requiring hospitalization at this time. Obviously, if you get stabbed, that's very serious. But hopefully they'll heal up and be able to get out of there. Regardless, it's a horrific incident. It sounds like after Erwin Rivera stabbed his sisters, he fled the house where he was arrested later. I believe in another county. I'm sorry, this kind of broke yesterday and I didn't have time to prepare for it. So they arrested him, and one of the really sad things was when they arrested him, he said to the police that it was his calling or God had told him. So you can tell, obviously, there's some severe mental illness. We have no idea if CTE plays a role. He was 31, so he's had a long time in the fight game. But I wish him mentally the best, and I wish his sisters a full recovery. Regardless, the whole thing is just sick. And, that whole family, I'm thinking about them. if you guys haven't seen Manhunt Deadly Games on Netflix, you're freaking up. I know I'm late to the party. I believe this show came out quite a while ago. It is about the bombing in the 1996 Atlanta Olympics. And my God, this show from the very beginning, it just hooks you. So I am in the middle of that, and I will be following up with that with you guys. Hopefully you guys will watch that. I mean, this show is just incredible. I can't, and it makes you feel sad too, right from the end of the first episode. It's like the guy who they suspect, you can tell clearly has been bullied his whole life, and I don't want to ruin too much in case you guys really haven't seen it. Yeah, here was the premiere date, February 3rd, 2020. So I am like a year late on this, but if you haven't seen Manhunt Deadly Games on Netflix, go watch it. It is very, very, very good. Other than that, nothing too new here. I'm excited to put out the first solo podcast, I guess. I'm not sure what we're going to call it yet. But it'll be something to do while I'm here alone in the studio. Let's jump right into it. UFC on ABC 1 is headlined by Max Holloway, Calvin Keator. This fight, when I was going and doing some research for it and breaking it down, the stats that I found are going to make this fight, I think, very, very interesting and very, very competitive. For those who don't know, Holloway was the former featherweight king. He beat Jose Aldo twice in a row, who is known as maybe one of the best fighters of all time. He TKO'd him both times, and he was arguably probably known as the best featherweight of all time, even though he's still young. He lost by unanimous decision December 2019 to Alexander Volkanovski in a close fight, very technical fight. He followed that up with an immediate rematch to Alexander Volkanovski in July of 2020, which he lost by split decision. His split decision loss to Alexander Volkanovski, which would be the second fight, is very controversial. I even went back and scored it for Max. It all depends on how you scored the leg kicks for Alexander Volk. But regardless, it was an incredible fight, very technical. Both those guys are amazing, and I think they're going to see each other again. A few important notes in this fight. Holloway is kind of a slow starter. He has 12 total finishes in his career, 7 of which have come after the third round. To mirror that, Calvin Keator, he has 13 finishes. 11 of Calvin Keator's 13 finishes have come before the second round. Holloway has only finished once. Holloway's only been finished once in the second UFC fight, and that was by armbar. Keep in mind, that was his fourth professional MMA fight. It was in the UFC, and he was submitted by Dustin Poirier. So just to give you... That was in 2012, so just to give you a little bit of insight and how long it's been since Holloway's been finished. Calvin Keator, he was only finished in his fourth professional fight, and it was also by submission, but it was on the regional circuit. When I got into breaking this down, I see it problematic for Holloway in the early rounds. Now, why I bring up the finishes is that I don't think that you're going to see Keator be able to put enough pressure on Holloway to finish him. Just looking at the stats right here, Holloway's never been finished by strikes. I don't even think Holloway's been knocked down. And you've got a guy who his best rounds are early. Like I said, Keator, 13 finishes, 11 before the end of the second round. He's an early starter. Holloway's a slow starter. So these first two rounds might decide the entire fight. The couple big things that I considered in this fight, the time off for Max. He did not take much damage in the Volk fights. His chin should be rested. I don't see Keator finishing this fight at all. And I think Holloway, Holloway's going to be rested. He's had a lot of time off. COVID, you worry about his training, obviously, but he's had a lot of time off to heal his chin. He, unfortunately, has an idea around him that he might have absorbed too many head strikes in all his fights because he is quite a bit up there on the list. But again, that's why I'm very happy that he's been able to take so much time off. The thing about this fight is the championship rounds will absolutely determine this fight. I think the early rounds are going to go to Keator, 1 and 2. Again, Max is a slow starter. He almost is Floyd Mayweather-like, that he's pretty defensive. He'll eat some shots, but he'll take snapshots of what you're doing. He'll write them down in his head, and then he'll use those in the later round. So I think the first 2 rounds are going to go to Keator, and these last 3 rounds are going to just be an absolute war. I see it being very back and forth. Man, I love Max Holloway. He's probably one of my favorite fighters of all time. But if I have to make a prediction on this fight, I just have to give this fight to Calvin Keator. I think judges are suspect. I think the early damage that Keator can produce in the initial rounds might be too much to lopside the scorecards for Max Holloway. So I see Max Holloway losing a very close split decision to Calvin Keator. The good news is Holloway is 29 years old. He's a huge featherweight. I'd like to see Max take about a year off. Hopefully we get over COVID completely. I'd like to see him put on some muscle, and I'd like to see him go back up to 155 pounds after this. If he wins, that's going to be a whole nother discussion. Calvin Keator's 32. Excuse me. Calvin Keator's probably already in his prime. Holloway could still be coming into his prime. It's going to be an amazing fight, but I just don't see Holloway being able to answer the initial questions of Keator's boxing. He's got one of the crispest, if that's a word, crispest 1-2s in the game. I just don't see Holloway being able to overcome the judges and the points after getting outpointed severely in rounds 1 and 2, which I think will happen. I think Keator will definitely outpoint Holloway rounds 1 and 2. So that is my official prediction for that fight. Again, I love Max. I don't care who wins. I love both those guys. I think it's going to be an absolute fucking war. God, it's going to be a war. I'm actually so excited for that fight. This card's kind of light. I was looking through this card, and for them to use this as their first ABC card, a little suspect. I don't know how the numbers are going to do on this card. I know ABC is part of USPN, so I don't know. I wish they would have stacked this card a little more, because being on ABC primetime, middle of the day, is an absolute huge achievement for the UFC. For us hardcore fans, I'm going to pull out some other fights, but I just think in general this card is going to be too light for the casual fans to tune in, especially with other stuff going on that day. I mentioned earlier the co-main event is Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. The people's co-main event will be Santiago Ponzinibio versus Liang, which will be the third from the last fight. So let's kind of get into that fight here. Santiago Ponzinibio has not fought since November of 2018. He has been dealing with a very, very, very serious medical issue. For people who don't know Santiago Ponzinibio, he is on a 7-fight win streak. He is not currently in the top 15 rankings, but he knocked out the number 9 welterweight Neil Magny. So I guess he had a health scare, and for 2 years he's been dealing with multiple blood infections. When he first started dealing with this, he spent almost 20 days in the hospital, followed by a clean bill of health. They checked him out after about 20 days and said, hey, you're good to go. Only to later find out that he had a bone infection and started to get inflammation in his joints and in his bones, almost like an arthritis type. He had to go to a separate doctor. He lost over 30 pounds. I don't know if that was muscle, fat, whatever, but he lost and kept off over 30 pounds while he was dealing with this. So the main thing for me on this fight is making it to the weigh-ins. I want to see what his physique looks like. I want to see his mental attitude. I want to see if he can get back to who he was in 2018, where he was just on an absolute tear. I mean, I think in his 7-fight win streak, that included about 6 finishes, if I'm not mistaken. He is a very exciting fighter. Won the UFC, I hope never loses, especially while he's in his prime right now. The good news is that when he did lose those 30 pounds, I guess he was able to go to Vegas, use the UFC PI, as well as some very, very good doctors to do his rehabilitation. He stayed in Vegas while he did that rehab. He's got wins over Court McGee, Zach Cummings, Nordine Taleb, Gunnar Nelson, Mike Perry, and again, the number 9 ranked welterweight Neil Magny, he knocked out in 2018. This guy's unranked still. He's up and coming. His opponent, Liang, this guy I can't say enough about. He is a TV fighter. He is always in there to throw leather. He's exciting. He's fast-paced. He gasses out a little bit. The big question is going to be to see if Ponzinibio is able to reform his previous style, to see if he's able to stay as crisp, if he's as fast, if he looks as good physically, mentally. If he's able to avoid the initial onslaught of Liang, I think this could be a late second, early third TKO, and it could be a showcase fight for Ponzinibio. If Ponzinibio shows any slacking in any of the characteristics he previously had, I think this could turn into a war very quickly, and this could go either way. My prediction, again, I think that Ponzinibio is going to return to his normal form. He's had time off. He's had the right doctors, the right rehab. And I think he's going to go in there. He's going to take a couple shots by Liang. He's going to avoid those initial shots. The big ones, I think he's going to be able to get back to his original form. And I think he's going to be able to get a pretty easy decision after those initial couple minutes. First couple minutes is what you're going to need to look for in this fight. It's where Liang is the most dangerous. It's where he's throwing haymakers. Again, he's a TV fighter. He's so excited. This fight's going to be awesome. I think there's a chance for them to just get into a bludgeoning fest, a bar fight. I can't wait for this fight either. This fight's going to be great. But my official prediction is that Ponzinibio avoids the early onslaught, and he takes a late second, early third round TKO or KO. There's 2 fights here that are kind of hidden that we'll talk about. Carlos Condit, Matt Brown, again, is the official co-main event. I don't know what to say about this. What are these guys even still fighting for? I have no idea. I mean, if they want to do it for the love of fighting, that's one thing. I was hoping that Carlos Condit would just retire. Carlos Condit just beat Court McGee, unanimous decision, but he looked accurate. He looked crisp. He did not have his speed. He did not have his power. He didn't have anything of his old self. He's actually not that old. I believe he's only 36. But he's going up against Matt Brown, who is also on the latter years of his career. So I'm okay with this fight. I just don't see the point in it. I'm not going to make a prediction on this old guy fight. There's just no need. It could be an exciting one. It could be a war. Quite frankly, if I had to predict a part of the fight, I think that Condit's accuracy is too fast for Matt Brown to stand with him. Too precise, not too fast. And I think that Matt Brown's going to force the clinch, and you might get a pretty boring fight here. I think you're going to get a split decision. I don't know who it's going to go to, but I think you're going to get a split. There's a hidden fight. I believe it's one of the second or third fights on the card. Punahou Soriano versus Dusko Todorovic. Both of these guys are fucking so exciting. Again, those names are Punahou Soriano, sorry if I messed that up, and Dusko Todorovic. They're both coming off the Contender Series. these guys, you just need to go back and watch their fights. They're so exciting. I can promise you this fight is going to be absolute fucking war. It's going to be crazy. That could be the most exciting fight I'm looking forward to on this card. Joaquin Buckley's back. I'm sure everyone knows here, Joaquin Buckley's the guy who is known for his insane KO. He's fighting Alessio De Sirico. Excuse me. Alessio De Sirico came in with a pretty good resume outside the UFC on the regional circuit, and this is exactly why you can't get too hype on guys who have good regional circuit sheets, because this guy came in and he did not do anything that he was supposed to do. He's very athletic. He's pretty good everywhere. He's technical. He loses steam quick. I mean, this guy comes out and looks like a world beater in the first couple minutes, and he just goes downhill shortly after. He came into the UFC 2016, like I said, pretty impressive resume, 9 wins, 8 finishes. He's just never been able to recreate that inside the UFC. He, like I said, he's got moments in fights where he seems to be on another level, but he just doesn't seem like he's able to capitalize on any of these moments. Currently, he's on a 3-fight skid, and with the UFC recent cuts, this is going to be win or be cut from the UFC for Alessio. It's pretty clear that this is going to be a tune-up fight for Joaquin Buckley. Again, everyone knows Joaquin Buckley is impressive knockout over Impa Kasanganay in October of 2020. I know I probably jacked that name up horribly. It's where he threw like a side kick to Impa's body. Impa caught it, and he ended up doing basically like a 180 or 360 kick, which landed right on Impa's chin, knocked him out cold. Impa fell back, smacked the back of his head, and the fight was over. Guaranteed fight of the year. So he's riding a hype train after that. He had one more fight after that where Joaquin Buckley fought Jordan Wright. I actually thought he was pretty hesitant in that fight, which is understandable. If you're going to come off a crazy KO like that, I think you're going to be hesitant because you know the fans are just waiting for that moment where you're going to strike and use a crazy KO, which is so much harder to produce. The stars have to align to get one of those moments. So I think he was hesitant for good reasons in the Jordan Wright fight. Both these guys are pretty athletic, though. They both do pretty much everything well. I actually thought Joaquin Buckley looked a lot better boxing-wise in the Kevin Holland fight, which he did get finished by Holland, but the couple rounds before he got finished, he was taking shots, but I thought he looked good staying in the pocket and throwing back. This fight, again, is designed to be a tune-up fight for Joaquin Buckley. He's going to go out there. I think he's going to outpoint Alessio De Sirico, and I think you're going to get an impressive late third-round finish from Joaquin Buckley, and I believe it'll be a TKO.